These prayers are going to continue for a few minutes now. The inauguration ceremony has already started, and there are chants that are reverberating inside the temple premises, and the entire prayer ceremony taking place right now. I'm going to again get into the conversation, Rashmi, about how, like you mentioned, the importance, the significance of India as a forceful, nation to be reckoned with has finally dawned upon the world and the Middle East itself. But also talking about how there have been a strained association that the Middle Eastern countries have had in the past with the West, particularly United States of America. In a situation such as this, can India emerge as a country that can hold the Middle East and the conflict and find solutions to the conflict that are emanating out of there? Do I have Rashmi with me? Okay. Do we have? Okay, all right. Again, then, okay, I have with me right now Patikrit. Patikrit, the same question to you. India's relevance in the conflict-stricken Middle East, keeping in mind America is right now inefficient in acting as a mediator, keeping in mind its alliances and preferences and prejudices towards certain countries.
Megha, good evening, and good evening to all my respected fellow panelists. This is a momentous occasion for all of us across the country and across the world. Megha, one of the most important and profound reasons as to why there is today so much respect in Middle East and across the world for India and its ethos, invariably the credit goes to Prime Minister Modi and the way he has been a great ambassador of Indian culture, civilization, value systems for the last 1 decade. Maybe 1 decade back or before that, the whole of Middle East was pro-Pakistan. That's one reality. Today, there is a fundamental transformation. It is true what you said. Let me just also mention something. Over the last 1 decade, India has transformed itself as a reliable partner. And the most important reason why India is respected today, not that people did not know about it before, but nobody put the effort to make the world realize that Indians are the most law-abiding citizens wherever they go. They never encroach. They never try to impose, and they have always been, valued contributor to any economy wherever they went. One of the most important reasons why India is respected in the last 10 years, as Prime Minister Modi has projected India, is because in spite of being a military powerhouse, an economic powerhouse, we have never tried to interfere in other countries' internal affairs. We have never tried to pit one country against another. And that's one of the most important reasons why the West, which is for a long time has been fed up with the games being played by the Western countries in terms of pitting one country against another, that today you find changes happening. The change is not complete. It is just the beginning. For a long time, Middle East was the theater of tug of war between Cold War rivals, the Americans and the Soviets. They faced the brunt of it, be it the Gulf War 1, 2 and 3, be it Iraq-Iran war, be it many other conflicts. Today, I think India would not try to, replicate America, though I don't think the time yet has come for India to replace America. But I think the Indian template is simple, that countries can decouple relationships, dehyphenate relationships. It is not impossible for a country to have got good relation with one and at the same time maintain good relation with the other. It is not necessary that just because I have good relation with UAE and Saudi Arab that I would consider Iran as my adversary.
Absolutely.
So the fact that diversity can coexist is the biggest example. The temple itself, Megha, is a microcosm of India's diversity. You have deities who are worshipped across different parts of the country. Having their place in that temple is example of that. Today, India is emerging as a resilient, reliable partner, a country which believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, a country which is saying that war has to be the last option, whether it is Ramayana or Mahabharata. In both the occasions, war for Krishna and Lord Rama was the last option and not the first option. So those are the ethos. I think for a long time India had those ethos. People forgot that. Nobody tried to project that to the rest of the world. India under Prime Minister Modi got the best ambassador to tell
You're
to the rest of the
absolutely
world
right. Yeah,
this is an
you're
alternate solution.
absolutely right. Quickly, Sumit, again, you know, the representation of Hindu religion in this temple is been an overture, an outreach that has been made by the Middle East, by the moderate Arab nations of the world. And this is reflective in the kind of change that they have seen in terms of how they view India and how they view Hindus. And I was just giving an example of Kashmir and how it used to be compared to what the Palestine issue is a few decades ago, versus now the significance of Kashmir as a problem of the Muslim minorities who are quote unquote under attack has completely put to rest.
See, Meghaji, under Prime Minister Modi, the image of India has completely changed. This temple is testimony to the belief that Muslim world has great relation and civilizational connect with India. Muslim world is great fan and great appreciator of Prime Minister Modi because in the Islamic heartland, having a temple of this stature was conceived to be impossible. And I remember when Prime Minister Modi said that I just asked the Sheikh, is it possible? Would you want to, you may not like to consider it. And next moment he said, put your finger on the land and the land is yours. It didn't took him a second. That is the stature of Prime Minister Modi. That is the stature of Hindu Dharma. Because if you talk of peaceful coexistence, if you talk of, increasing Muslim population, if you talk of the second biggest Muslim population in the world, that is India. If you talk of the, economy and ecology in the same breath, that is in India. If you talk of the diaspora, that is most, efficient and contributors in the world, that are in India. If you talk of the fastest growing economy, if you talk of the food basket of the world, if you talk of the IT hub of the world, if you talk of the space superpower of the world, and if you talk of geopolitical powerhouse of the world, it is India, and youth power, needless to say. Now, when these things are done in the heartland of Islam, all those aspersions, all those canards, all that BS, I'm sorry not to use a proper word, are put to rest that Modi is fascist, anti-Hindu, Muslim minorities are under, suppression. There's imminent Muslim genocide which is going to happen here. No, it is not going to happen. And if that was the case, why should Saudis be investing here? Why should the UAE be investing here?
Why should they be opening up temples?
And why should our minister go there to Makkah and Medina? Why should Smriti Irani ji be allowed there in an Indian attire? So all those canards which the Western media has been trying to build around Prime Minister Modi to stop India and stop Prime Minister Modi, I think the POC, proof of concept, is this is all canard. It was all a hogwash. It was never there. It never ever existed there. It was just a figment of imagination and a tool of propaganda which was used to us. Today it stands dismantled, it stands shattered, and it is blown away with the wind. So there is no scope for any such aspersions because this temple is a reality. Then whatever you have been paddling for last 10 years, whatever lies you have been saying for last 10 years, that is utter BS. Sorry to use this word again because today is a moment to call their bluff out. They have for 10 years haunted us with their bluff. They have for 10 years been, literally messing around with our happiness. One issue, this issue, this issue. Where is fascism now? Where is anti-Muslimism now? How is Modi anti-Muslim? Do you think the people of the Islamic world are sellouts who give him the biggest awards? Who give him the land and whose brother, and where the Sheikh calls him brother when he comes to Gujarat and goes in an open road show? That is Modi, that is India. If Muslims are safe and sound and growing anywhere in the world, it's not the biggest Muslim country or it's not the smallest country, Islamic country. It is the majority Hindu country of Bharat. That is the reality of life. Muslims are safest and most prosperous in Bharat. They are not in Pakistan, they are not in Afghanistan, they are not in Syria, they are not in Yemen, they are not in Azerbaijan, they are not in Afghanistan for any chance, but they are in India. The world has to realize that, and forward-looking Arabs from UAE, Saudis and all, they are realizing this, Meghaji. We may not be reluctant to say it, but they are realizing it. This is the testimony to it.
Absolutely. Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, a very important point. The fact that this two-nation theory the Muslim minority is under attack, which has been peddled time and again. It is so cliched and hackneyed, and therefore, in fact, there have been more of such articles that have once again been coming out in CNN, in BBC, in Washington Post. And I would like to just read out a few excerpts from them. This is from BBC, and what it says is, it says the temple will likely boost the Indian government's Hindu nationalist agenda ahead of the general elections in 2 months. The fact that the temple inauguration in a Muslim state, in an Islamic state, has been touted as a nationalistic propagation agenda of the government of India ahead of the election is preposterous. The second point it is raised right after that goes about saying that Prime Minister Modi inaugurated a grand temple to Hindu god Ram in northern Indian city of Ayodhya just a few weeks ago, not forgetting to mention that it replaces a 16th century mosque that was torn down by Hindu mobs in 1992. And it very conveniently forgets to mention that the mosque had in fact been built on a Ram temple which had been destroyed, desecrated, and was built, and that mosque was built by Aurangzeb. In fact, the third paragraph mentions in the article that the temple in Abu Dhabi is run by BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha, it says the organization claims a 200-year-old history, is headquartered in Narendra Modi's home state, Gujarat. So this is the extent of the wrongful narrative that is being built around India, around the government of India, and particularly around Narendra Modi.
Megha, thank you for an interesting snippet from the BBC and elsewhere. I think it's a case of a bad loser. British and Americans, etc., have had their sway, have had their preponderance. It was Britannia who ruled the waves. These were crucial states. Before India's independence, Mumbai presidency used to run the affairs of Gulf. Pax Americana replaced it, and now both of them are in withdrawal. Now, that is one part. Another part is that after Arab Spring, the Middle East has realized that hyperventilation by Islamists has done no good. Muslim Brotherhood came to power in Egypt, biggest Arab country, and it failed. Political Islam was discredited in Syria, for example, in Libya and elsewhere. And the Gulf countries particularly were quite against political Islam. They went in the other direction, became more and more secular, without abandoning Islam, of course. And this comes at the right time. The temple, for example, and India's soft power ascendance came at the right time, at the right place. And I think this is what is beginning to emerge. And I think best and other things are yet to come. India and UAE have had a CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which is yielding results. There are more than 1,000 flights per week between India and UAE, for example. 10,000 people travel every day between the two countries, and other countries, including the GCC itself, are trying to have similar CEPAs with India. Negotiations are on. Indians are either the largest community, expatriate community, I should say, in all the GCC countries, or they are the first or second largest trading partner of these countries. IEA has said that between now and 2045, demand in India would be the driving force for the oil and gas in the world. because other countries are either withdrawing from oil and gas or are saturated, like China, for example.
Right.
So all that put together brings us into an Amrit Kal of Indo-Gulf relations, and this is being consummately leveraged, and I think best is yet to come.
Okay. On that note, Patikrit, also talking about domestic politics, and it has functioned more so on creating communal discord. And we have continued to see how there has been this constant narrative of how the BJP government has meted out atrocities against Muslims, how there is quote-unquote Muslims living in fear in our country. Does this gesture, this inauguration of the temple, setting up of the temple in an Islamic country, then dismantle all of these lies that are propagated and peddled by the political parties? Have they been exposed?
Megha, even as we discuss right now, the agents of regime change of the West are very much active in India as well, and through their volunteers and paid dalals, they are trying to create ruckus. We have seen some of it happening in certain parts currently. The reason why countries like UAE and Saudi Arab and many other countries of Middle East, the reason, in spite of all the negative propaganda, fake negative propaganda against India being peddled by certain elements from West and certain cynics in India, the reason why they never pay heed to those is because, number one, they have their own information system to find out what actually is happening inside their country. They know that nobody has ever been discriminated on issues of vaccine or mudra loan or when it comes to housing. In fact, the Muslim community has been the biggest beneficiary of all of it. They know how things have improved phenomenally in Kashmir after Article 370 abrogation has happened. They know how India has been extremely restrained and never discriminated anybody. They know that history. They know what is happening right now. And that is why they have the faith that, they have embraced Prime Minister Modi and his policies so much. But if you ask me that, is it going to neutralize everything, all the negativities? No. The agents of regime change will work even more. They will try even harder to dismantle the fundamental transformation that India is going through under Prime Minister Modi's leadership. Let me tell you, the West was very happy till the time India was known as a country of cholera, mosquito and snake charmers. They were very happy till the time West was, synonymous with intellectualism. They were very happy till the time India was presumed to be a country of inferiors. Today, as the status quo is being challenged, and we are not only emerging as a resilient economy, we have not only become a first respondent in many places in major crises, we have not only emerged more stronger through the COVID period, but we are also taking the mental space as well. This temple is not just a temple, but it is an embodiment of Indian ethos, philosophies, culture, tradition, history, civilization.
Yeah.
So the civilizational renaissance of India is hitting many people, including certain cynics inside the country. And therefore, I'm telling you, the agents of anarchism they're going to work even harder. It is not they're going to sit idle. And I'm sure the government of India is aware of what is happening. The West do not like stable countries with a strong leadership. They want countries which are fundamentally weak and a leadership which can be manipulated. That is the problem they have with a strong India today. So they will continue to do. And my last point, the Middle East has suffered through everything that India is suffering right now in the hand of the Western regime change agents. They have suffered everything. The New York Times and Washington Post for a long time have tried and attempted regime change in Middle East as well. And that's why you see convergence happening between India and Middle East, Asian economy, Asian century as we call it. There is respect for the diversity. I am thankful that BBC has not written that Modi is trying to, take over UAE and saffronize UAE. I am happy they are not saying that Modi is going to form a government in UAE.
Yeah, because they make for a very weak argument. They're talking about Hindu nationalism in an Islamic nation. Now, how do you how do you put two and two together? Even if they were to put an argument and to take them on face value, it just doesn't make a cohesive argument. An attempt that is being made by these organizations and media agencies that India is a Hindu majority and a Muslim minority attacking, ostracizing nation, how it is a Hindutva that is at this point of time the powerful, fearful constrict that brings about disparity, brings about hatred, brings about fear amongst minorities, and particularly targeting the Muslims. So Islamophobia is what India and Hindus have been targeted with, but that's far from the truth. And like I said, this is the biggest example that could have been witnessed by way of the temple inauguration in Abu Dhabi. Quickly getting you also, Sumit, into the conversation here about the roadmap ahead. Now, as I said, the larger picture that the Middle East at this point of time sees, with India's growing stature, the economy that is building up very fast. We are going to soon become the third largest economy of the world. So, is this then going to be the way forward for the West, for the Middle East, for other nations to then take out and shake a hand of friendship with India? Will then also have to, whether it is forcefully, whether it is because of the change of circumstances in the world global order, have to include, if you're talking about India, you have to be respectful, you have to be paying obeisance to what Hinduism is, to what Hindu is, which was not visible up until now in Middle East, which is still not visible to a large extent in United States of America.
I think, Meghaji, you see, India has been unfortunately suffering under a Nehruvian vision of secularism and Nehruvian vision of Hinduism, wherein depleting Hinduism is increasing secularism. They were inversely proportional. Now, when you talk of the global economies, there are four major countries: India, US, China, and Russia. Now, Russia is a weapon superpower. It's not an economic superpower. You're left with United States of America and China and India. Everybody in the world has to align to either of the three. Now, if you align with US, you know what are the drawbacks you've seen. China is not going to be a lasting thing. The option, the viable, sustainable, practical, and resilient option is only India, where you have the demographic dividend for next 70 years, and you have at least 100 years of development. And yet, we are not eyeing your land, ladies, and legitimacy, what I'm not sure for the other three countries, right? If you look at the history, there are examples there. So these people, when you talk of Bharat, when you talk of Hindustan, Hindu is the essential part of it. The 80 to 90%, 85 to 90% of the Sabhyata of the civilization is Hindu. Hindu ethos, Hindu culture, Hindu way of life, Sanatani way of life is not only good for India, it is good for the whole world. Imagine a country being looted and plundered for 1,000 years and still sticking to its root. Imagine a country wherein $45 trillion were siphoned out by British. Still, we have risen to risk. We are almost at a number 3 economy in the world. By PPP, we are already number 3. Imagine a country which was at fragile 5 in 10 years has become the top 5. Imagine a country which is contributing 40% of the food of the world, contributing around 80 to 90% of the pharmacy of the world. Imagine a country which is like a phoenix, which has the capability to raise from ashes and dominate the world scene. It is because of your spirituality, your dharma, your sabhyata. So the world has to see the power of these. See, this is the salient force. This is the USP of the Hindu way of life. What we call Hindutva is the way of life. So all countries practically have to get into this way of life. For example, if you go and teach your kids just two things: what is dharam and karam, and what is pap and punya. The trial balance of the balance sheet has to be zero. At the end of the day, if your trial balance is zero, kindly consider these two things. The world will be a much better place to live in. We don't talk of beheading. We don't talk of burning witches. We don't talk of crusades. We don't talk of resistance. We don't talk of jihad. We don't talk of conquest. We don't talk of converting people by sword or sending missionaries to convert people. We have not done any of this. We are letting live. When at the time of COVID, we give vaccines, we give medicines, we give food, whatever our UPI, our COVID, our platforms they are given to the whole world. We are talking of the humanity as such. When the time came, Americans missed the bus here. When the time came, Japanese missed the bus, and Japan is nowhere in the scene. Chinese have already missed the bus. But when it is our time has come, we are not going to miss the bus. We are going to take this around, and the fundamental block is Hindu. You can, it's like I love the buildings, but I hate the concrete. Well, that is a part of that. I love the skyscrapers, but I'm allergic to cement. Well, that can't happen. There can be no skyscrapers without cement. Hindu is the building block, ma'am. How can you not respect Hindu? How can you hate Hindu? Hindu is where around everything goes. Bharat Hindustan hai, Hindustan hi Bharat hai. That is you have to relate, at 85% of the population, Hindus are the majority and Muslims are the second biggest majority. Because, Parsis or Jains and all, you can take out 0.1%, 1%, they might be a minority. But at 10, 12, 13%, kaun si minority ji? They are the second biggest majority. So this canard of minority has to also go. They are the second majority. And the world's second biggest population lives here.
Yeah.
Problem.
Ambassador Sanjay, also, moving on to a different tangent, a slightly different shift in what a global Hindu now signifies, keeping in mind, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when a senator, a representative of the House in the United States of American government, I'm giving an example of Bobby Jindal, and so apologetic was he of having Hindu lineage that he went about clarifying during his public speeches and addresses and campaigns that he was in fact a Christian. And tables have turned in such a way that you now witness Rishi Sunak, who is the current Prime Minister of United Kingdom, taking the oath as the Prime Minister on the Gita. Something similar also being witnessed just a few weeks ago with an American member of the parliament who did exactly the same thing, took a oath on Gita. So, has the mindset of Hindus of being apologetic about their, or embarrassed or humiliated about their religion, or at least not wearing it on their sleeves, is long gone?
I think there's something of that sort happening. 20 years ago, I was asked by a Saudi kid, you say in Arabic, you sound quite intelligent. How come you are not a Muslim? I think that question would not be asked now when you have a temple for children to see, when you have Hindus, Indians in general, and Hindus in particular in the largest expatriate community in most of the GCC countries, where in fact over the turn of the history, Arabs and Hindus have had fairly good equation with each other. The traders, Arab traders and Hindu traders got along very well. Malabar coast was full of Arab sailors benefiting from each other. Let me end it by giving you a classic example. A folk song which is very popular and sung in almost all Arab weddings in the Gulf is called Markaba al-Hind, or the ship from India. Here the singer compares his beloved with the ship coming from India, full of exotic things like sandalwood, like oud, like silk and everything else, perfumes. And he says, like ship from India is full of exotic things, you, my beauty, are also exotic. There was no superlative bigger than the ship coming from India. So, what does it show? The paradigm is very different in the Gulf than what is it made out to be culturally and civilizationally. They have been pretty close. Sheikh Zayed, the father of current president of UAE, has given a speech when he was around, saying that when I began my term as the president of UAE, we used to go to Mumbai and used to aspire to have similar buildings, similar culture in our own country. With Allah's blessings, we have come to that. They didn't know London. New York, etc. They knew only Mumbai. So it's all there till 71 when UAE got independence. Indian rupee was the only legal tender.
Yeah. Okay.
Saudi Arabia till late 40s when India got independence, didn't have real. They had Indian rupee as the legal tender.
Okay.
So this goes pretty deep, and we are now drinking from this proverbial well in the depth of the desert, and we are entering the Amrit Kal of bilateral ties.
Okay, fair enough. That's an important, interesting point, and a reflection of how things were in the past in terms of the Muslim world congregating with India. And Sumit, quickly, you want to make a point about this as well?
Yeah, you see, the point I'm trying to make, Hindu pride was asleep. So I have to be direct. The man who woke it up is Prime Minister Modi. Hindu pride was unknown to the world. The man who put it on the global stage is Prime Minister Modi. And if we are all proud Hindus today, there's one man which we owe this confidence to is Prime Minister Modi. And if I can be candid and direct, he is the best brand ambassador of Hindu and Hindutva across the spectrum of the world. You could have not aspired for a better man as a Prime Minister and as your brand ambassador. See where has he taken the stature of the country, and see how does world look at Hindu, Hindustan and Bharat. You know, it's all his guts. Thank you very much to him for what he has done for the country.
Absolutely. On that note, I'll slip into a short break, come right back. We are on the rolling coverage of the Abu Dhabi Hindu temple that has now been inaugurated, and the celebrations continue.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.